My great-grandfather was a wealthy merchant and he had 5 wives, and my family came from the 3rd wife. When they died, sometime between the 1930s and 1940s, they were buried in the grounds of Bukit Brown. I only found out that my great-grandparents were buried in Bukit Brown a few years ago due to the announcement of the new construction of the highway that would go through the cemetery. The first time I ever visited my great-grandparents' grave was last year. The whole area is very untouched, a lot of mature trees, a lot of wildlife. It's pretty much like a very dense forest. So I can see why so many people came forward to protest against the construction of the highway. But on the other hand, a lot of the cemetery is also very poorly maintained. There were many graves that were seemingly forgotten. They were overgrown with weeds. Some of them were just looking really worn out. Graves that are higher up would cost more than graves that are on lower ground. The further up you go, the more elaborate the graves become. So even in the afterlife, I think they believe in this hierarchy. My great-grandfather, he's buried on a very steep hill. When my grandmother was still alive, she would actually climb the hills of Bukit Brown in her sarong kebaya to pay her respects to her parents every year during the Qing Ming festival. When she was no longer able to do this, my aunties and uncles carried on the tradition, and they've been doing this for the past 50 years.
是姓 something Shan, got bombed off. 之中
Something long.
His tombstone has the names of his 5 wives and all of his children. But part of the tombstone has been damaged, and my uncle thinks that it was damaged during the Japanese occupation. So there are 3 parts to the ceremony, and the first part is the grave sweeping aspect. So this is where we would clean the tombstone and remove any weeds. And then the second aspect would be the prayer aspect. So my uncle would light up joss sticks, and we would stick the joss sticks in the ground. And then members of the family would come around and take turns to offer their prayers to our ancestors. When you're done with the first 2 parts, then you would give your offerings to your ancestors. This can be in the form of food, or paper money, or paper houses. My great-grandmother was a Peranakan lady, so this year my auntie brought some paper sarong kebayas to burn as a form of offering. So the idea is that these goods would be received by the ancestors in the afterlife. These days I know that some shops, they make paper iPads and paper Mercedes-Benzes for people to burn as offerings. So at the end of the entire ceremony, the family members would gather around the tomb and we would throw up these coloured paper in the air, shouting to the heavens for blessings. In the modern-day Qing Ming ceremony, I get a sense that there is so much emphasis on material offerings and also the expectation to be blessed with wealth and luck in return. And I think that's very far away from the original meaning of the Qing Ming festival. I think my family still keeps up with the tradition because my grandmother did it quite religiously while she was still able to do so. The cousins in my generation find the whole ceremony quite amusing. It's kind of like a little adventure that we embark on at 7 a.m. in the morning once a year. This notion of paying respects to your ancestors is one of the fundamentals of Confucianism, which is what the Chinese society is built upon. But you actually tend to see less of the next generation joining in, and it's quite sad if you think about it because the Qing Ming festival has a history that spans over 2,000 years. I think in the next few generations, my great-grandfather's grave would probably be forgotten, just like majority of the graves in Bukit Brown. Either that or it will be exhumed because of a major redevelopment project by the government. We'll see which one will happen first.